I think it's very appropriate, even given that little bit of news, that I joined by Ken Wharfe here, and you all know his picture because there were very few pictures of Lady Di that Ken wasn't in.
Thank you, Nigel.
And he joins me on Talking Pints.
Well, here's to the Queen.
The Queen,
and,
the Queen, absolutely.
A speedy recovery.
Over the night, I heard that she'd slipped out of a stirrup on a horse and sort of bashed her hip, and that's why we haven't seen much of her over the course of the last few months. There's no suggestion there's anything worse than that, is there?
Well, I don't know. I mean, your information might be better than mine, Nigel, but I think what we have to look at here's a lady in her, 97th year, and still, there performing and representing us all, really, in the royal family. I mean, that's quite extraordinary. I'm not surprised, actually, that she decided to pull out of tomorrow, but she would clearly want to be part of, these celebrations, and decided, look, let's take a break from this. Because all of your guests have all sort of said how extraordinary, this woman is. And for all the years that I spent working for the royal family, and I was very, the firm, yeah, and I was very privileged to be part of that. And I had some great times, some good times, some bad times, but, without question, the one person that sort of always came out, always on top was Her Majesty the Queen. And you mentioned earlier working with Diana. Diana had a real sense of duty, despite what a lot of people said about her. And she was loyal in every extent of the word to perform and work for the top lady, she wrote, Her Majesty the Queen. And that she did, because she held her in such high regard and respect. It's only sad, actually, that Her Majesty, at the end, was only able to sort of praise Diana at the time of her death, which was, rather unfortunate.
A very difficult period.
But it was an incredibly difficult period for her. But nevertheless, through her annus horribilis and so forth, those very difficult years of her life, here we are now, and the loss of her confidant, her consort, her husband last year.
And if we believe the Crown, and I mean, how good is the Crown in your view?
Well, I mean, I like the Crown, like many other people, but I mean, I'm sure Peter Morgan will say, well, look, this is a piece of theatre, which it was.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there was a lot of fact in
One of the things in that fascinated me, and you can perhaps tell me whether it's right or not.
Maybe.
Is that, well, I don't know, but I mean, you were there, is that actually Prince Philip was very good with Diana. Is that right?
Well, interesting. That's a very good point, because I remember at the time, towards the end of Diana's problems, the one person she said that was really helpful was actually Prince Philip, and she said that she had typewritten written letters from him saying, look, if I can help in any way, come and see me, whatever. He was very sympathetic and understanding of the problems.
Which is not the image many have of him.
Well, I don't think, but I think that's the problem. I mean, I think people, the media are very prone to putting out images that will actually sell their product. The Duke was an incredible character, of course he was, but he was, in the sense with Diana, very understanding of the difficulties that she was going through at that time with his son. But I have some great memories of working with the royal family, Nigel, and it was indeed a great privilege working with them.
You were absolutely at the heart of it, and I sort of semi-joked at the beginning that you were in every blooming photograph there was, but you were there, and you had a very important role to play with Diana, and then it seemed to me that she leaves public life, and then you're gone.
Well, I mean, in that sense, I mean, what actually happened, that Diana in 1993, which was following, the separation announcement by John Major in 92, it was over, that was the end, and that was the beginning of the end, and we all knew that at some point she was going to jump ship, and I knew that as well, and I had, no alternative really, and I didn't anticipate that Diana would, in the December of 93, decide to abandon her entire security, which was a huge mistake.
Was that her decision?
Well, it was her decision, but when I left in September, October, and because I felt that my position was being compromised, and then almost immediately she invited me back to see her at Kensington Palace, which I went back, and it was like revisiting that time that I met her 8 years previously in Sandringham. and the fun, because the great thing about Diana was she was an incredibly fun person.
So you liked her?
Oh, she was yeah, of course I did. I mean...
you had a job to do.
Well, I had a job to, but I mean, you know, there was a chemistry there between she and I. But she was entertaining, she was fun, but she was loyal to her cause. I mean, you know, she did things for the benefit of the family. That's not to say that the family actually liked what she was doing. The problem was that Diana was so popular that the royal family had a real problem of addressing that popularity. And instead of actually sort of bringing her in and say, look, hey, you know, welcome to the firm, you know, we could do with you. But they didn't do it.
I mean, the captain of a cricket team, if he has a star international batsman or bowler, should welcome this.
Yeah, but they didn't do that. It was only
Was Charles jealous of her?
I think he was jealous of her popularity. And you know, there was, you know, I don't want to criticise the prince, because I wouldn't, because I was... You know, I admired his generosity to all of his staff. I mean, we would go to Highgrove, his house in Gloucestershire, and in Kensington Palace, and the generosity shown by him and his staff was fantastic. But he had a real problem with dealing with Diana's popularity. And I remember coming back from Newcastle with Diana one day, and all her days out were fantastic. You know, massive crowds. And we arrived at Kensington Palace, and there was the prince on his own. And he said, oh, have you had a great day? He said, and she said, yes, fantastic. Where are you going? She said, oh, he said, I'm going to do my churches in the city. She said, well, do you like that? You know, and generally sort of trying to engage in a conversation. And she said, would you like me to come with you? No, they'll only be interested in you. And this was the problem. It's such a shame in that sense, Nigel, that really, because actually Diana's format was really to represent the very best interests of the family, and unfortunately they had a problem with dealing with that popularity. But she did change, you know, the focus.
She had the stardust was there, and there was no question about that. And I mean, we obviously finish up with those horrendous scenes in that tunnel in Paris, and is that directly because she had the wrong security around her?
Well, I've talked about the events in Paris in 1997, and you know, when I first heard that Diana was killed in a car crash in Paris, I sort of dismissed it. I thought, no, there's just no way that she's going to die in a car crash. But of course, when the two inquests that went into that inquiry, and this has been talked about over many, many years, 25 years now. You know, the conclusions are, yes, it was an horrendous accident that could and should have been avoided.
I mean, the guy driving the car should never have been driving the car.
I think, well, exactly, but I think the whole point is that she inherited, through no mistake of her own, a security package, courtesy of Mr. Halfayed, that just didn't have that level of experience and expertise that Scotland Yard had. And I think, actually, Nigel, that's where we better end it. But
okay.
You know, it was a
terrible end.
A great time for me.
So tough for those boys, and I never forget the funeral. And I know you were in charge of security for that event, and seeing the boys being made to march through the streets of London. I mean, I have to say, I thought it was almost inhuman.
Well, it was, but, you know, people talk about...
It's what they do, I guess.
Well, I mentioned the word to you earlier. It's what royals do. It's a sense of duty. You know, whether a 13-year-old boy should have walked behind the property's mother. Probably not, but, you know, that's what being royal is all about. I'm sure Harry, to this day, will never, ever forget for the rest of his life that moment. No. And, you know, here is a young man that's been the centre of a great deal of royal controversy over many, many years. And, you know, thankfully, you know, he's back now in the United Kingdom to pay respect to his grandmother.
Well, let's hope, yes. I mean, let's hope that she gets the chance to see her great-granddaughter, and there is a family, perhaps a private rapprochement of some type.
Well, I think
but he's let the side down, hasn't he?
Well, I think, you know, again, all I would say is this, and I'm not defending anybody, Nigel. You know, I'm coming in from having worked with this young boy. He was 3 when I first met him. Yeah. And, you know, he was an incredible character. You know, his brother William was always jealous of his personality, because Harry was always the fun maker, the entertainer.
Everyone, they loved him like they loved his mother.
They did. And suddenly, you know, here he is. He has this sort of amazing career in the army. He's pulled out of the army, not of his own choice, but by circumstances, which everybody now understands. Yeah. And then he marries Meghan Markle, and things start to go downhill badly. But, you know, you have to try and put yourself in his shoes. He decided his course of action was to represent the best interests of his wife. I know it's controversial, but imagine the Queen, which remember, she said, look, OK, you do what you want, but listen, you can't have it both ways.
No, absolutely.
And I think that's hung over his head for a long time.
Her leadership there was amazing. I don't want to dwell too much on it because this is about her. These next few days are about the Queen and what she means to us. And I just want to ask you finally, Ken, what did today mean to you?
Well, the day, I just sort of reflected on the 16 years I had the privilege of working with the royal family. And I have to say, Nigel, that all the characters that I met, and I probably worked with every single one of them, and it was rather striking for me to sort of see the Duke of Kent today looking very aged on the balcony. But I worked with him for 3 years, and he was an incredible character. And I just think that above all that, all these characters that I talk about, the cousins, the others, the Queen was the real head of that and made this firm work. I think what we're about to enter is a new reign, perhaps in whatever time it is, when we have the Prince of Wales or William as the new monarch. We don't know.
But she could be there for years.
But, well, yeah, let's hope so.
Well, let's drink to that. Thank you,
Nigel,
Ken, for coming on
thank you very
Talking
much.
Pints.
Fantastic.